Hey everybody, it's JANG here with a look at a LEGO Star Wars set from 2005. This was the first minifig scale ARC-170 fighter that they created. It came with 396 pieces at the time. The ARC-170 ended up being a pretty big deal in Star Wars lore, pre-original trilogy Star Wars lore. In many ways, it's the spiritual predecessor to the X-Wing, although this is a bigger, heavier craft, more of an attack fighter even than the X-Wing ended up being. But this was LEGO's first attempt at it. They would do another attempt at it 5 years later, and I will review that separately. But for now, let's take a closer look at the details of this one. First of all, I've propped this up on a couple of regular clear LEGO pieces in order to show how the wings are able to angle out, which is one of the most important and crucial aspects of the design of this thing. As usual, the clear pieces are not included with this set, and unfortunately you're not able to get this to just sit on the ground. I've tried it. It does not work with these smaller winglets. The S-foils open like that. They tend to break off. They're not attached all that well. The mechanism is a little bit on the rough side. You've got this gear back here that acts as a knob, and you turn this around and you see how this gear selector piece is just kind of trying to freely float around on the axle shaft that's here. Let's loosen that up a little bit. It has a little rubber band to hold it in place, but you see how motion is being transferred out towards the wings, and it's just slowly rotating a piece in there that has a couple of Technic ball ends. And it's rotating that 90 degrees. So that goes to a horizontal position. Just focus right in there. And I will go ahead and open this back up. And here, those are twisting into a more vertical position. And it's just forcing the winglets out. And these are actually able to turn themselves. So sometimes when you do that, depending upon the exact way that the parts came out of the mold, there's a little bit of different tolerance. Sometimes you'll get one of the wings just kind of turning, spinning on its own axis just as you open and close the winglets. You also have to spin this quite a bit just to get a small amount of motion there to open and close those. There's quite a bit of gap between there. As you can see, I can just stick my little finger right on through when it's in its fully closed position, and the winglets themselves are brought back together by white rubber bands. You see the rubber bands here and the rubber bands here. Now, the one thing I do appreciate here is that they used white rubber bands. They use them because of their specific level of tension, but they fit in with the color scheme quite well. So they don't stand out and they don't bug me. They don't detract from the look. And I think they do their job pretty well, but overall this mechanism leaves a little bit to be desired, and a lot of these winglet pieces are not very well secured. You see, just holding on with a single tile from the top there, 4 studs underneath. It's just 2 studs on either side. Also, these wingtips of the main wings are not attached all that well. Just 4 studs underneath this long plate right here. So with a little bit of play, stuff can start to come apart very easily, and then see just 2 studs on the other side. So altogether, not the most durable design. Each main wing tip has the long, heavy laser cannon on it, and depending upon what reference you use, it has been officially described in official documentation or officially sponsored documentation that this could be a rangefinder device, or it could be another cannon, actually a projectile cannon, not a secondary laser or ion cannon. My personal favorite part of this build is the engine inlet right there. That's actually a printed piece, that disc piece that's on the front of this wheel, this dark red wheel, which is actually reused from the Robo Riders series. And then they have a larger wheel on the outside here, a hard plastic wheel done in white. And I think that all that just fits together really nice. It shouldn't spin, but that doesn't bug me at all. This is just a really nice compact design. You see the print is a little bit worn out there. I think that's just because it's a very used set and all the parts were used, but I think that's very nicely done. I also like how they did the nose here. That's pretty good looking. There's a little bit of gap in here, but doesn't bug me too much. The shape of it for their first go around I think is actually quite good. There are 3 canopies to cover the positions of the 3 crew members. So out in the front is your main pilot, and all of this comes up. That whole thing comes up as one assembly, and that works just fine. It's easy to get the main pilot in and out. I'll give you a closer look at the figures as well. And putting this back in place is also very easy, nice and convenient. Now these back here are a little bit of a different story. Here you rotate this canopy forward, rotate this canopy back. This is your tail gunner, and this is kind of your main fire control officer, who also deals with all of the forward-facing weapons. This opens up to the side, and this opens up to the side, which gives you plenty of access in there. So it's more complex, but it's really nicely done. And it gives you a nice little crew compartment there, also a spot to hold the astromech droid there. And each of these consoles, for these two guys, have a print on each. So always nice to get prints. Also prints on these, what is that, 3x6x1 little trans black pieces there, and two different prints. So one for this side, different one for this side, to make sure that the angles go all proper. All other things that are printed back here, these slope pieces, curved slope pieces, are actually printed, and again, two different ones there. Interesting. Did not expect that, but much appreciated. This is your little tail gun. They also they messed up a little bit here with the tail gun. There are supposed to be two, supposed to be one up on the top and then one on the bottom. They didn't even make an attempt to put one on the bottom here, but they would later do a little bit better on the second version of this. But all the stuff through here I like very much. It's really nicely done. And just look at that one more time. Opening up the canopies, there's a little bit of gap underneath, but you open this to the side, open this to the side. It just gives you easy access in there and presents the figures well. From the back, I want to show you one more kind of hidden action feature in this thing. And really the reason for the rubber band here is not just to keep this red piece centered. It's that you can pull all of this back and then let it come back in. Kind of has a bombing setup. So there's a bomb bay. If you look at the yellow little area right there, that gets pulled back, and that allows you to drop down. I think I may have just moved it out of place. You can hear them rattling around in there, but there they go. A couple of cylinder pieces that you can drop out to represent bombs. I think they were supposed to represent proton torpedoes, but you know, they're just gonna fall out. It's just for kids. It's just for the play value, and it's nice. It doesn't take anything away from the design, but brings in some more play value that makes some sense. I think it's a good thing. The figures. There are 3 actual minifigures and the 1 astromech droid. These are clone pilots, and according to the reference at brickset.com, this particular configuration of figure was only ever included in 2 sets. This one and the, I believe it was V-Wing that came a year later, well, officially a year later. So not the most common overall configuration of figure. They were interesting, good details on those helmets with the molding especially, but the print is also pretty good. Sand blue, I always like those colors that start with sand in the name. You know, they're different and they're unusual and they're relatively uncommon. All of the figures here are the same. These are all used, and this one was a little bit damaged on the head, but all of the heads are just black, plain black, so no actual faces inside of there, so you're seeing black right through the open visor area. And then the astromech droid is an R5D4, which according to Brickset was in this exact configuration in 7 different sets. A little bit plain from the back, but it's kind of a red themed version of the original R2D2 with a white based head. So the ARC-170 ended up being a highly desirable thing to have a representation of, or to fly as in video games. You know, it became something that a lot of folks liked. And I think Lego did a fairly admirable job for its day, for its time, of rendering that in Lego form. Definitely has some flaws, and I think the biggest flaws are all related to durability. You know, I think too many things with the wings and with the wing mechanisms are too easy to kind of get out of whack or to break off. But I think the look overall is pretty good, especially for its day. I think the figures are fine. Would have been nice to get a little different assortment, but you know, the assortment they did include here is appropriate. Overall, a pretty good set, especially for its time, but it needed some things to be improved, and they would improve them years later. I always very much respect when designers learn things and improve over time. You can't ask for more than that. So that's it for my look at this set. Thank you very much for watching, and please do share your thoughts about it by leaving a comment. I've got more videos to bring you, so I'll talk to you again very soon.